Hello, Isra. How are you? Hello. Evening, Isra. How's your day? Ah, congrats. Well done. All right. So, I don't also have time. I'm having a lot on my table. Let me just show you what I need to show. I'm recording the class already. Okay. So, what we are doing is the basic introduction to back end, right? And um, back end, like we explained in the last class, controls what you see on the client server side, right? So, if you are seeing any interaction as a client on a site, it means there's something behind that is controlling it. Because you ask the question and then you got a response. It means there's something somewhere that's feeding you with that response. All right. For example, what I've been on is just the front side of it. Right. If not um, done the back end to see what I've not shared the screen. Sorry. Thank you for the. I was actually recording with live, but I thought use the screen actually. Alright, so I guess you can see my screen now. I guess you can see my screen now. Alright. So, like I was saying, if you need a back end, or if you ever at all think of a back end, you know that okay, you just need something behind the scene, right, for your client server side. There are a lot of features that you may have to just look up these things practically. It's not far away from what you've been doing. It's just that you just have to learn some more programming languages. It's not a hard thing. Two key things: a scripting language and a database. That's just all. You have a lot of scripting languages. You have the responsibility to 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 become so good with what we've done so far. I was happy when Nafisa showed me her result because she took out like 2 3 weeks to do React JS on Allison. Allison is an LMS. So you have Udemy, you have Allison. If I'd introduced you to a language before, right, that you need to go down deep, you do, right? What I'm doing to you is opening you up to what it is that you need to know. It's your responsibility to go to become what it is that you need to be. But trust me, I'm not holding any information from you. I tell you everything that you need to know, right? And the key ones I stressed. So she has stretched to see that she gained, okay, she got a certificate on React JS, and that's same thing as JavaScript. It's just like, okay, an extension of it, like framework. All right, we've talked about Bootstrap. I showed you the basics. The trouble with any programming language is always the beginning, because you don't know how to go about what, and you can waste a lot of weeks online trying to do that if so nobody is there to tutor, to guide you. Well, that's what I'm doing already for you. Okay, so we smoothen that part, and you can now take your journey. There are myriads of courses, myriads of materials for free, and I've had introduced you to two key sites. You do not expect me to take each of the elements every day. Today we are doing this one, tomorrow we are doing this element under HTML. It doesn't make sense, right? So when we introduce you to what we think you should know, and we allow you, does not mean that we allow you to just be there and wasting time. It means that we know that you can be able to journey the path we've sent you through or we've sent you to take. Right. So if at this point you're still struggling with HTML and CSS, then you're in trouble. Right. And if you're also struggling with JavaScript, because our basic languages for this program is HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Python as our scripting language, and then SQL as the database. That's all. That's what you're learning. All the things you're doing is just an addition to what you're doing. So if you are done with this, you know that you're a full stack developer and you can do and undo. You check this up on the live server. You look up this what we have here, the source code in live server. You will see that we have we have this right where you have to there are a lot of features say that will demand response, right? Sorry, I've cut out the footer. You'll have seen some more things because I'm still working on this. So you look up this, this thing is not just going. You enter an email, enter where is it going to? There should be a place where this goes to so that we can get it together, right? And possibly reply you or something like that, right? So all these points where you have to impute, they should go to a place. Now we have a placeholder, right? That gives you the space to impute, right? But there should be a place where it's going to. Now, where it is going to, it is actually a reflection of um, someone needs to join, right? It's actually a reflection of rows and columns, right? Now, even in Jupyter, where we have to analyze or create tables and the rest of all that, it's always database is always a reflection of rows and columns rather. That makes a table. So that's where your information will be held for querying, right? Excuse me, let me bring this up. So that's where it's going to be held to bring up whatever it is you're using your querying language to question, to ask, to come to the space to get the responses on your front, on your client server side. All right, this is coming on. Let's minimize and go ahead. So this is it, and that's the reason why you're going to be learning what you're seeing here. And like I told you, this is not hard as you think. A few things you should know. And I'm going to take the pain of walking you through every single feature here so you can maximize. But for the class today is to be able to query, to have a new query, to create a table. You first create a database, you create a table. And there are a few things you need to know. We have what is called the DML and we have what is called the DDL. The DML is the data manipulation language, and we have the DDL, which is the data definition language. Right? You're going to see a lot of keywords here that you'll be interacting with, right? And we have a standard body that controls that. Now, most of those keywords, so let me type so that you can take a few things down. Even though I'm recording this class, you can refer to it once it's up. Uh, Minute, please. All right, so let's go ahead. I'll see write those out so that you can see visually. Okay, so the DDL and the DML, I've told you what the meaning is, right? For most of the things you're going to be doing, you have to interact with the data manipulation language. It's not hard. You have a site where you can read up the what these things mean. And the common one, the most common one that is more direct is the W3 school. Code W3 school, you see all that you need to know and places where you're confused. I'm always here for you to ask questions. What you need to know is what I'm introducing you. On W3 school, you won't see the the interactive, the IDE that I've shown you. Now, you just on the first day, I told you, okay, go here and do this. It's quite easy, right? But try doing most of these things on your own, then you will know the stress of doing that. We didn't have this privilege when we were also learning. But now you can hear someone say, okay, do this, you've gotten it. Do this, you've gotten it. Right now you've been able to download and you have it. Right. I'm going to take the pen also to explain the data types on the SQL. The data type is very important because it defines um, your characters. Right. We're coming to that. I don't know why this is hanging. Um, right. So there are two ways to create a table. The first thing is to have a database. We have five here. We have edit, we have view, we have tools, we have window, we have help. And we have the one of the important things again here, which is the solution explorer. Going to explain what that means with time. So in your file, you have your connect object explorer, you have your disconnect object explorer, you have new, you have open, right? And here, just take notes. You have go to, you have find and replace. On tools, you have the SQL Server Profiler, you have the Database Engine Tuning Advisor, you have the Azure and Data Studio. Someone wants to join us. Okay, all right. So you have all that. Maybe perhaps in the class tomorrow, I'm going to derive. I'll just try to create a cheat sheet for whatever is in these um, futures. I'll just create a cheat sheet for it. But the thing you need to know here is how to create a database. There's a command for database for creating a database. Manually to create a database, you can see what is here already, right? You have um, the dicks that indicates that shows that that's a database. This is simply the icon for database, and you have this icon stand. If you move your cursor to this dicks here and you right click, you have connect, disconnect, register, new query. You have activity monitor, blah 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 down. So expand this database. When you expand the database, you have system database, you have database snapshots, you have the different databases I've created before. You right click on this, you have new database. Just move your cursor towards it and right click. You create a new, just click, if you click on this new database, you have the option to create a new database. So it's coming on. Now you see it. Now you will give the name for the database. Now let's say for instance, um, cohort 13 13 db. All right, so you okay down here. All right, so it has been created. So you have it down here called 13 db. You've created successfully um, a database. Now you're going to have a table in this database because whatever you're going to do has to be contained in your rows and columns, right? So when you expand this database, you have a lot of other options like a drop down menu. You have database diagram. I want to also show you how to use a database diagram because that connects whatever item you're going to have in your database. You're going to have, okay, let's say for instance, um, you're creating a database that will pick username, that will pick specific IDs, that will pick locations, that will pick all those that you're going to have in the different fields. We call a column field in SQL. Fields. So I say in a different fields, I'm referring to the different columns. All right. So when you have database diagrams, this database diagrams explains the connection between the different fields, and then you have the table. Now the table, you can have two, three, four tables. It all depends on what you want to do, and it can be interconnected. We have the tables. If you expand the table, right, you're going to see system tables, you're going to see file tables, you're going to see external tables, graph tables. All these apply for different cases or case scenarios. So you now want to create a table. Just right click new. Just right click on it. Manually. This is how you create. But the problem with creating a table manually is always with populating the table. Now, what I mean by that is this: to fill or to fill in the information to the table is the problem always with manual creation of table for a database, right? So, but it gives you a free ride, right? When you get to a point where you're going to start inserting information, you're going to get to that, right? It stresses and the rest of all that. So you have the column name. You can create a column name here. Um, let's say ID, cohorts, 13 ID. So you have data type. You have to spell out the data type. We have a lot of data types here, and I had said earlier that I'm going to walk you through the different data types and what they do. Now, for some of you who have you have basic knowledge of um, Python, you know we have string, we have int, we have all those. And here you have real, you have small date time, you have small int, you have small money, you have SQL variant, you have text, you have time, right? So we try to capture ideal cases, ideal life cases, right? To be converting what values you're going to have, right? So if you have a number here and you are choosing time, it's going to read it as the ideal scenario for normal time. You have the timestamp, you have the tiny int. I'm going to explain all this through your cheat sheet, walk you through them, and send you the cheat sheet. Right? You have the unique identifier. You have the var binary. What's happening? Alright. So we have the var binary. Now all those are data types. You can go on and on and on and on. We have the varchar. The most common used are the varchar. We have the int, money, right, and the float. And here and there you have the other ones, the date time, right? Yeah, commonly used the chart. The chart can contain, um, let's say you want to write a name or so. The characters may not be more than 10 or something, and you can define the character. You see, you have a parenthesis where you have 10, right? You can put in the value of, you assume if it is confidence, for instance, how many letters do you have to spell confidence? So you can put up the number of character, right? If the other names will not exceed the character for confidence, you make it 13 or 10 for all across board, right? So that's how it works. Now for allow nulls means that would you want to allow empty spaces? Now in Excel, you see that you have cells that sometimes by mistake are left empty, and that's why we have a need for cleaning a data set so we don't have null values or empty cells, right? So if you allow nulls, it means that um, peradventure anyone makes a mistake of not imputing what value you need in a particular cell in this data, in this table rather, you're going to have an empty space. I know later on now you're not going to have a good data to imagine, okay, that the information there is what now can we, maybe a date of birth of someone, and then there's someone on the client server side trying to inquire, to know, to ask, to query from the database what the age of a particular character is, and then he queries it and sees that it's null. I see it's not that poses a lot of question on whoever it is that developed it or was on the back end and trying, because you allowed null, right? So we do not allow nulls at all, except for cases that are peculiar to what you want to do. So you on click on check this, right? And that's it. You get, so these are the cases with this kind of table. And then now the next thing you're going to have to do again is, okay, let's talk about the other part of creating a table. We're going to come back to this again so we can run and do other things. This is one of the easiest and safest, right? You click on your new query. The one I did before is manually, and this one is how will I pass the right word for it? I forgot it. Don't worry, I'll put all those together maybe in tomorrow's class. So you can have the right words to refer to these cases. There's what we call a relational database management system. There's what we call a lot of other things. I'm going to bring those up in tomorrow's class. I'll write them out, maybe create a slide so you can regard it. You have the new query. I'll talk about the relational database management system. That's what I mentioned. I didn't just mention it. We have new query, and you see the command for creating um, database is create database, right? And you give the name. Now, like in Python, you see these things are mostly you're using direct English to communicate. It's just that you have to understand the basic syntax, and it works for you. Now, if you go to your W3 school, then we have opened before, then you go to SQL, you see that there's a basic walkthrough every single thing. The home, the intro, the syntax, select distinct. I'm going to explain this. Where, which is for the clauses um, uh, that gives your condition. It's not like the conditions you have in Python. But sometimes you want to, okay, if this number is greater than this, print this. If this one is greater than that, print that. Right. Now these are the two things you're going to use. Python is going to be our scripting language. Python is going to be the scripting language, and then SQL is going to be your database. You query from SQL and the rest. That's it. And you also note that what I'm doing now had gone beyond um, what I'm supposed to do with you, even though but we are doing all this because there's no point if you can't do what you're supposed to do as a programmer. You've wasted your time. Order by, where you have to have descending and ascending order to order your different fields. You want the ID to come first before the username. You want the username to come first before the ID, as the case may apply. But that goes on and on, and the rest of all that. But to create a database, you have SQL databases, database rather. There's nothing like that. Create DB. It gives you the syntax to creating a database. So if you check this up, we're going to have, all right. So you see the direct command, create database, and then you give the name, and you have a semicolon that ends every command you give. It's a good practice. It's not like it's not going to run, right? It will run, but we advise that you maintain this practice. Let's take for instance, We want to create a database. And this is not case sensitive. You use up lowercase to uppercase, it still will work. Yes, right. So we highlight the whole of this and then we execute. So you see that commands completed successfully, completion time, blah blah blah. It has created it. Right. Let's refresh and see if we can have that here. Okay, so let's use the command rather. So we successfully created it. Uh, okay, let's create a table and then we'll show it up as an evidence for the existence of the database where we have, which we have created rather. So to create a table, it's still the same command, direct, create a table with the name you're going to have. You're going to display all those. Create a table, look at it here again. To back up, to drop a database, you have direct drop database, you give the name, semicolon, run the execute the code. You're going to come to this. I'm just trying to prove a few things for today's class. And then you can back up, you can create table. So to create a table, because I'm going to give an assignment after the class, that's why I'm showing you this. To create this table, uh, the command is create table, then you have the table name, you have your parentheses, you have the different columns, and then you have the data type. And that's why I said I'm going to explain all the data types to you, right, and send you the cheat sheet so that you know the field, the name of the field you've created. If it is ID, you're going to have like a complex data type. You have a mixture of numbers and then the letters, right? So you may want to have a voucher. You may want to have, if you have an int, it means that, okay, you are only permitting numbers. You have a float. I think you choose now to have decimal values with decimal this thing. And then you have a string. Let's say for username, you're going to have a string as a data type, right? So that's the case with all this. So if you create table, the table now, and then this, and then add up this, right, and execute at the end with this semicolon and execute this, we're going to have a table. So let's check this out. So why are we having comma after the first column? Hmm? Why are we having a comma after the first column, please? Are you guys there? Hmm?
Yeah, here.
But, okay, I asked the question. Why having a comma after each of the column? No answer. Hello, people. This not. It's not supposed to be a hard thing. Auntie, what did you say? There are different characters. Right? Column one, and you wouldn't want to have a column one, and you're moving to the next column without an indication that hey, I need this on a different field, right? So the comma now separates column one from column two from. That's how you list. Is that also? It's a simple question, very direct. So you see that we have an Nafisa database here. So I've changed the cohort 13 DB to Nafisa because that was the last. That's the direct database we created. Now we have a table and it has commands completed successfully. Now, if anything reads, if you see a red this thing display here, it means there's an error of what you've done. Perhaps the data type was not captured correctly. Right. So I don't want to stress your mind now because you've not gone through the different data types. There are a lot of them. We're going to walk you through them so that you know which one to apply and why you're applying it. Right. So now we've created this table. Let's display the table. There's also a command um, for displaying a table. Right. So we're going to read about this until you see they're applying different data types here. So to show a table, what's the command for it? I asked a question. Who is laughing? Hmm? Who is laughing? All right. So okay. It's simple. Select, I told you it's not case sensitive, asterisk, and then from. You call the table you've created. What's the table? You have table name. That's captured it already. Okay. Let's run this first. So you have the columns here. You just created, you've not populated this. So you have column one, column two, column three. So I'm going to give you the syntax to adding two names with space between. It doesn't support underscore. But I'll give you the syntax for using that. Maybe when we create and populate tomorrow, because we're going to have those kind of case scenarios tomorrow. The different cases where okay, we have okay table one, and you want to add another um, word to it to describe adequately what you want to describe. So when there's a space, what do? We have the square bracket, we have the parentheses, we have the curly brackets, we have all those apply for different cases. We're going to look all those up tomorrow. Right, so this is how to, I've walked you through the features on the interface, and I expect that after the class today, you're going to look up creating and populating your table before tomorrow's class. Don't wait for me to come there, right? Populate. We'll do a lot of all those and then do a bit of analysis here first and to have your hands on it. And I'll show you how to use some of the features here because it's quite important. When we are done, then we start using the scripting language for it. And that I may have to introduce you to Python, right? To be a quick one, we walk you through Python, we query, and then link, and that's all. The last thing we're doing is to host an ideal case of hosting a site, right? With any of the providers, we host, we host. You guys may have to contribute to just host. It's not expensive. You host, get the domain, get the host, pay for the hosting, and then we push the work up, and then you see practically how that is done. That will be it, right? So the rest is to you to search and then prove what you've done. And I've recommended that please go ahead and look for the opportunities to start as an intern. Just start as an intern. If there's an opening for it, you start off as an intern, right? So you can practice on the front end to become an authority. It's a different thing when you've worked as a front end developer, right? Than when you assume that you've learned to be a front end. It may sound easy, right? It's a different case. When you have the experience firsthand, you know how to deal with the market that's going to face you, right? And then you're exposed to a lot of other things because you'll be taxed. Then you now move to backend. Of course, for me, I have the duty of introducing you to the backend um, as we're transitioning. So I'm not delaying, and that's what we are doing already. Right? My sister has done React and has gotten certificate on it. I was quite excited when she showed that. And I also advise you to look up. Please, you guys work as a team. Someone is doing something else. You please relate it. You're applying for a job, relate, do it together. And that's how you can track progress. And you're accountable to each other. Right. So that's just it. For the class today, we've been able to walk you through the features. Even though you've not known the meanings, because I'm going to create a cheat sheet or a slide tomorrow to explain each of the features on this. I've walked you through the features and what you have on the drop down. We've still created a database manually and using the query language, using the keywords rather. We've created a table, right, manually and also created using keyword, right. We've displayed the table. We are going to do the same. We are going to go ahead and populating tomorrow. You can go ahead of me if you so desire to do so. Is there any question? Hello? Is there any question, please?